A startling new report is undermining a widely shared stereotype of Jewish communities in New York. New figures show that a quarter of all Jews here in the Big Apple are not wealthy, but are instead now living in poverty. In the last decade, New York has seen a huge increase in poverty amongst Jewish communities. Nearly 1 in 4 Jews are considered poor, compared to 1 in 5 in 2002. They're statistics that stand in stark contrast to many people's idea of New York Jews owning vast amounts of money and property.
Poverty in New York and poverty everywhere is a huge problem, particularly in the Jewish community. We see it as a problem because most people don't see Jewish people as being poor. Jewish poverty is considered like an oxymoron for many people because there are wealthy Jews, and New York has probably historically been a place where most wealthy Jews have lived, but it's also the place where we have the greatest concentration of Jewish poverty in America.
And of the 5 boroughs in New York, Brooklyn is the hardest hit. Nearly 45% of the population here is poor. It's where many Hasidic Orthodox Jews live. Large families are common, and for the men, studying their religion is considered to be more important than earning money, further fueling the problems of poverty.
The issue tends to be more of an issue among the Hasidic Orthodox Jews as opposed to the more modern Orthodox Jews. They have larger families, but there also are tremendous self-help mechanisms in those communities which provide for the families who are in need.
The Metropolitan Council on Jewish Poverty also runs outreach programs like soup kitchens. Poverty is nothing new for the Jewish community in New York. At the start of the 1900s, 2.5 million Jews came to America, over 1 million of them settling in New York. The majority arrived with very few possessions, often little more than the shirts on their backs.
It was the people just above the poverty, the extreme poverty level, who had the means. After all, it required some means to make this journey. Who had the means to make it and to find some kind of resettlement and opportunity in America. That doesn't mean that by our standards they weren't incredibly poor. They were.
Many thousands received help from other Jews who'd settled in the city during the 1800s and who now set up support organizations to give out food to the newly arrived.
This map displays how a Jewish philanthropy distributed food, and especially ritual food for the holiday of Passover, to the poor. 3,000 Jews received, or Jewish homes received matzah. That's an enormous proportion of New York Jewry at the time.
But more than 100 years on, and poverty remains, with figures continuing to rise. In New York's Jewish community, affluence certainly exists, but community groups say that poverty here is real and it's growing. And they warn that if some households continue to focus on Talmudic studies at the expense of their own finances, in this recession-hit economy, things may just get worse. This is Nick Harper for JN1 in New York.